Hi everyone, welcome to Public Webinars by Frappe. This is the very first webinar in the month of September, and we are so excited to see 80 people joining us for this webinar, for this session. And hi, for people seeing me for the very first time, I'm Babita, your host for Public Webinars, and also the marketing person here at Frappe. So, today we have for this session Team Yagna. Now, we have Deepak Nagar, who is the co founder at Yagna World, and Aniruddha Joshi, who is an expert with 20 plus years of experience, and Chinmay, who is one of our official ERPNext partners from Hybro Labs. So they serve and build with Yagna as their customers. So today Yagna World is going to take this session up for you. And so hi Deepak, how are you?
I'm doing good, Babita. Thanks for inviting us and making this happen.
We are very excited to see what happens because this is the very first time we are having a session with one of our customers. So this is going to be very exciting, I hope. And how are you, Anirudh?
I'm good, Babita. Thank you. I'm just keeping a track of the participants. I hope it touches 100. It's already
It
90.
will soon touch 100. It will soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look forward to the session.
Yes. Team Yagna operates from which region? I think Pune.
Yeah, both of us are in Pune, but we have a team in Mumbai also.
Okay, great. So Yagna has its another branch in Mumbai.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
wonderful. So, without a further ado, maybe we can directly now come up to the session topic. So, guys, Yagna is going to take a session on manufacturing with ERPNext, but they have a very interesting management philosophy or methodology, you can say. That is what they're going to pair up with this particular session. That is theory of constraints. So that is how you study and deal with particular bottleneck in your particular management system or system of operations, which I'll let Team Yagna talk more about. So Deepak and Anirudh, Chinmay, please go ahead and we have 117 people right now with us, and let everyone know what they're going to get in the next 1 hour. And also Chinmay is going to help us with the Q&A session. So if you all keep adding your questions in the Q&A box, Chinmay is also going to answer them live. So do keep adding your questions in the chat box. Over to you guys. You can begin with the session.
Yeah, thank you, Babita. So this was the panel which was publicized on Frappe events, optimizing manufacturing in ERPNext using theory of constraints. So let me give us a brief introduction of where we come from. Uh, So Yagna is a management consulting firm. It's not a user of ERPNext. Although we use internally, we are using CRM internally for our own purpose, but many of our clients are users of ERPNext. We work with mid-sized manufacturing companies in India and outside and help them to adopt principles of theory of constraints. My colleague Anirudh will be taking you through briefly what is theory of constraints. So we have had over last 7-8 years clients like Pradeep Metals, which is into forging and precision machining, Hinge rectifiers, which are uh, equipment suppliers to railways, Mitsukam Plast, which is a packaging and hospital furniture manufacturer using blow molding process. And you can see other names that we have. Bharat Bitli, Godrej Interior are some of the names that you might know. But others like Kohli, Bulo, Shark, Nanomag, Neptunus, Ramdev Motors are also significantly big manufacturers in their own rights. And we have helped them to adopt principles of TOC to improve flow in their organization and grow without new investment or adding additional operating expense. So, Chinmay, would you like to introduce Hydrolabs?
Hi everyone. Uh, I started Hybro Labs around 8.5 years back. We are a full stack digital uh, web mobile and digital transformation company. I mean, where do we come in, right? We come in into an organization where you want to have a very elaborate digital ecosystem of where mobile application, chatbot built for your company. We build it using the open source, using ERPNext and other open source technology. And we have our own stack on ERPNext called ChatNext that we have built out, which has uh, chatbot builder. It has a task manager. It has advanced role-based access control, and many other toolkits that are needed for a robust digital transformation journey. So we take these, uh, you know, applications which are already built out on top of ERPNext, and then we implement your use cases the way you want. And
Thanks, Chinmay. Chinmay and we got together a few months ago. We have been discussing a lot over last 2 years because we believe whenever a customer of ours wants to go deeper into adoption of theory of constraint principles, IT plays a major role. And we believe even ERP Next or companies who have adopted ERP, whether it is ERP Next or SAP or Oracle, any other ERP, they would benefit a lot if they relook at their business from the lens of theory of constraints or lens of flow. Uh, so we have been discussing a lot, and over last 6 months, we got an opportunity to work together for a client, and we developed an application of TOC based planning and execution, and that is what we are going to demo today. Uh, so let me come to the agenda today. So I'll just narrate the challenges that are faced by manufacturing companies, and then uh, we'll take you through some of the uh, concepts that we have pulled out of huge body of knowledge that is TOC for manufacturing context, and how we have come up with something called planning engine. We have implemented planning engine using Excel, which pulls data from ERP and gives out the material requirements planning recommendations. But the same Excel now has been converted into ERPNext, and will open for Q&A at the end. So the next slide. Uh, uh, Babita, do you want to put up the poll now?
So we can do the polls.
Yeah.
Uh, so guys, there's a small poll of 4 questions that is on your screen right now. This will help us to know what are your current bottlenecks and what industries are you serving, so that we'll know what kind of users ERPNext have and in what ways we can help. So kindly take up 1 minute to answer those questions. We'll close the polls in the next 10 seconds. Guys, do vote. We have 130 people right now. So only 70 votes have been voted right now.
Have you close the poll?
Yes. So ending the poll for everyone.
Okay. So all the people who are users of ERPNext, we have an offer to the attendees here. We'll be putting out a link for a form uh, at the end of this webinar. And out of all the people who uh, fill up the form in detail, we'll select one company and we'll offer 5 lakhs worth of assessment free. And for that qualification, we would want all the details to be filled up. So out of all the people who complete the form, we'll select one lucky winner and reach out to you for 5 lakhs worth of assessment to be done.
Yes, guys, Deepak is going to share the link towards the end of the presentation. So do stick to this particular webinar so that you might also win a chance to get your particular use case in front of Yagna.
Yeah. So Aniruddha, would you like to take the audience? So what is theory of constraints?
Sure. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
Aniruddha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a quick background. I'll just spend 1 minute on my background. So in our webinar title, we have three parts, right? The manufacturing, ERPNext, and theory of constraints. So I have been exposed to now manufacturing since the late 90s when I started my career. And I've looked at manufacturing from finance angle initially. Then I was part of the IT industry. So I've looked at it from process and automation. And then since 2011, I've been looking at it through a holistic methodology like theory of constraints, which brings together finance, IT, operations, everything. Regarding theory of constraints, I came across TOC and the book The Goal in 1999 when I started my career. It stayed with me for a while, and then since 2011, I've been practicing full time, 24/7. The goal, I think, I saw that there are 40% people who are, I think, aware of TOC. So I'm sure some of us would have read this book, The Goal, written by Dr. Goldratt in 82-83. So that is my experience with TOC. ERPNext, we at Yagna were fortunate to come across ERPNext around 2017 when we started Yagna. So Deepak, myself, and our other colleague co-founded Yagna in 2016-17. So it just happened by chance that we came across ERPNext, and it has just grown. It just seems a coincidence, and I'm sure it's not a coincidence, but ERPNext, I think the way it is flourishing, every other client of ours is, a ERPNext client existing or is switching to ERPNext. And over the last 3 months or so, we've been fortunate to collaborate with Chinmay to build this TOC app, which we will demo to you. So that with the quick background, now what is theory of constraints? So Dr. Goldratt, the person who wrote the book, The Goal, and who is the creator of this methodology, so I'll keep on calling it TOC for short, but it means theory of constraints. So he was asked this question somewhere around early 2000 as to what is TOC. So after TOC had been successfully adopted, implemented across many organizations since the early 80s, he was asked this question, and he came up with this saying that I can describe TOC in one word, which is focus. Right? So focus would mean that you want to identify one or very few changes which you want to implement, as against trying to implement many changes in the organization, which is what typically happens. If you're not familiar with TOC, you will find that people are trying many different things, but somehow it is not leading to an improvement for the company as a whole. So, taking this word focus, there's another very famous TOC expert, a leading theory of constraints expert, who has come up with this very interesting and I find it a very powerful framework of taking this word focus and coming up with this process or framework, which can be adopted by any company. Even if you don't know anything of TOC, if you just follow these steps, I'm sure you go back to your office after this webinar, or tomorrow you can try and implement this. So what I'll do is I'll quickly take you through these 5 boxes. I know there's a lot of material on the slide, but we'll not go through every word. I'll just give you a gist of it, and then I'll run you through an example from our practical experience on how do you apply this or what is it that we found. So the first box, as you can see, is one goal, one constraint. So the idea is not to have too many goals, right? Just pick one goal. The whole essence of this methodology is the one-to-one pairing. So pick one goal. Every company has a goal. And if you don't have a goal, then TOC is not meant for you. But I think that's an exception. So you'll have a goal. The For achieving a particular goal, what TOC says is that you will need resources. You will need some amount of capacity. We're talking about manufacturing, so some capacity will be required. There will be internal capacity, there'll be external capacity, vendors supplying to you. There will be orders which will be required. Demand has to be there for your product, otherwise you will not be able to achieve the goal. And then you will need cash to keep this whole company running. Investment in fixed assets, investment in working capital. So these are predominantly the four resources: the capacity, internal, external, demand, and cash. Now, the insight from TOC is that at any point of time in any company, there'll be at least one resource which you will not have enough of in order to meet your goal. It could either be capacity, it could be either a vendor, it could be a demand that you don't have enough orders, or it could be cash. So that's the first step. To identify one goal and identify one resource constraint with which now you can focus. The word focus, which I used initially, comes in here. Then if you go to the second box, you have the pairing of one constraint and one problem. So now that you've identified the constraint, you need to figure out how can you get more out of the constraint. So again, the TOC insight here is not to go after and start investing money just because you find that you have an internal constraint. But our work and work by across different projects suggests that at the minimum there is 30 to 50% capacity which gets wasted inadvertently. So you don't need to invest more. You just need to figure out what is it that is holding you back from getting more from the capacity. Right. So that is one problem, one major problem which is holding you back. Once you have done that, then you come to the third step where you say, okay, now that I have found the problem, is it easy to solve? If it is easy to solve, nothing like it. But generally, what we find in most companies is there's some kind of a dilemma or a conflict which is preventing the company from solving that problem. So what that is, I will come to it in the example. So that gives you your one problem, one conflict. Then once you have identified the conflict, then you go into one conflict, one innovation. So now you come up, apply TOC principles, apply flow, whatnot, whatever concepts, and you come up with a specific solution for yourselves, for your company, which is based on a win-win, not on a compromise, but based on a win-win. And then you go off and say, okay, I'll now actually implement this, whatever solution I have developed. So that is one innovation, one experiment. So this TOC expert, Dr. Allen, likes to refer to everything as an experiment. That you implement something, it's like treat it as an experiment, get fast feedback, and then make suitable refinements as you go along. Right? So this is the five box framework: goal, constraint, problem, conflict, innovation, experiment. Now, just to quickly take a practical example, just to make it a little practical from a manufacturing standpoint. So one of our clients into engineering goods had a high level goal of they wanted to increase profits, make more money, which every for profit company wants to do. But the specific goal was that we want to increase our sales. And when we looked into it, we said, okay, the constraint, all of us agreed that the constraint is an internal capacity constraint. They have enough orders. There's no problem with cash. Vendors are ready to supply. That's not a problem. But specifically internal capacity, and within that, the assembly line in the plant was the constraint. That if we could get more capacity out of the assembly line, could get more output, we'll be able to do more sales and we'll be able to make more money. So when we then went into one constraint, one problem, we tried to figure out what are the reasons why the capacity is getting wasted. And so we came up with different reasons and we finally found, I'm just giving one as an example, we found that out of the total time available for the assembly line, almost 4 hours of the time was getting wasted because of some policy relating to the work which should not happen during breaks. So whether it is a lunch break or dinner break or shift changeover, you found that the assembly line was idle. Now, when we started discussing this, suddenly people started raising these dilemmas, saying, "But oh, now so are you expecting that we should, have the assembly line on for 24 hours? Because that will have some impact on the HR policy, that will have some impact on the cost." So there were some dilemmas. Right? Then when we came to one conflict, so we said, okay, now this is the conflict we need to solve. That if I want to increase my output, I have to run the assembly line for close to 24 hours. But that will mean that there'll be pressure on costs, there'll be some HR related issues, IR issues, so on and so forth. When we went to one conflict, one innovation, we said, okay, in theory of constraints, there is a simple decision making framework where you evaluate every decision based on throughput, which is the gross margin, which is popularly called gross margin, inventory, and operating expense. So you take this decision based on what is the impact on these three. Once we did that, it was very clear that you had to change certain policies. You had to align with the fact that you have to improve the output from the assembly line. And then this journey continued. So we got to the next problem. And by that, we actually improved the OEE, overall equipment effectiveness of this line, from less than 50% to upwards of 80-85%. And then after that, the constraint, then it became saying that, okay, now how do we meet the goal? How do we increase sales? Because by that time, actually, the constraint had shifted to the market. Orders had become a constraint. And then different solutions of TOC. So this is a very simple, powerful framework which has been implemented for last 45 years across hundreds and thousands of companies across all domains. So this is something which you might want to take away and think about. So back to you, Deepak, for now, diving deep into the manufacturing.
Thanks, Aniruddha. It was in a very short period you have given the example as well as the theory behind it. So let us dive deep into what Aniruddha said. That any manufacturing company, so for a manufacturing company which is either supplying to consumers or to even to business, they start off with something which is available to them. They have a given capacity. They have a working capital limit which has been given to them. They have a limited budget for manpower. So some boundaries have been drawn which cannot be changed overnight. So those are the boundaries in which they are supposed to function. Now, every manufacturing plant or a set of plants are expected to deliver more because company wants to grow sales and the same plant should keep on delivering more and more, not only quantity but also variety. So if you look at it, the expectation is, uh, just a second, I'll put the. So expectation is the more output, quantity, variety should be delivered by the plant. They should not only deliver quantity, but they should deliver fast. As soon as the client says, they should deliver because the tolerance time for the end customers as well as other businesses are going down. People want cycle times, lead times to be shorter and shorter. And they want to be reliable. They are expected to be reliable. That whatever has been asked from them, the variety and the quantity is delivered on time in full, and everything obviously has to be without defects. So this is the reality. These are the inputs available. This is the expectation. But what comes in the way is what is known as VUCA. They operate, manufacturing organizations operate in an environment which is rife with volatility, complexity, uncertainty, ambiguity. If you search for Google about VUCA, you will see that this has become the go-to thing to explain why things cannot be done. So volatility we can't avoid. We can't prevent Trump from coming up with tariffs from 10 to 25% to 50%. Suddenly things change. Uh, Things are complex because supply chains have become very, very intricate. We get materials from all over the world. We supply material to all over the world. And we have manufacturing locations in different parts of the world. So complexity is there, uncertainty is there, and ambiguity is there. We do not know exactly how things will move out. Means we take an action, how it will turn out to be, we do not know. So this is an environment in which people operate. And this is where theory of constraints, the way we look at the situation, uh, helps to create a mental model, a mental picture, and convert that mental model into way to manage the companies. So in this kind of environment, the answers required by the people who manage they need answers, in very definitive answers about what material to have. So they are supposed to use raw material, they are supposed to convert it into finished good. They have intermediate, semi-finished goods available. So in what form they should have, where to stock, how much to stock, when to order, how to commit due date, how to schedule the entire plant, and how to ensure ROI, because end of the day, we are doing business to earn money. So it rests on the shoulders of manufacturing companies to deliver to the requirements of so many different people. So the product management comes up with new and new products. Marketing department goes out and explores and opens up new markets. Sales people go and get new orders, and those orders could be from anywhere, could for the any product. But the finance team puts all the restrictions about what kind of working capital they can have. So they have to ensure ROI. The way uh, the whole setup is run, they must ensure ROI. So what does TOC, how does TOC help? So rather than going into whole huge body of knowledge, I'll pick up three things that we have applied in the current case where we work with Chinmay, and we have delivered an application to our customer. So one of the things that TOC says is there is an inherent simplicity in any complicated environment uh, that you see. So you should take efforts to simplify. And one few things that you can do to simplify is reduce and classify. So what we did for our client was help them to take up huge number of products that they were putting out into the market and ask them to put them into buckets, which are given acronyms here. MTA stands for made to available. This is the stock which will always be available, and the sales team can commit very short lead times, and customers can expect that products will be delivered uh, off the shelf. Another one is assembled to order. So for these finished goods, they are not kept ready in finished good forms, but as components. And as soon as the order comes, they will be assembled against an order and delivered to the customer. Assembled to order, you can imagine what Domino does. Domino Pizza does. They do not have the pizzas ready. They have all the ingredients ready. As soon as you put in an order, they assemble the pizza and send it to you, and that's how they can promise 30-minute delivery time. And the last one is MTO, made to order. These are the products which once the client gets an order, then they start the entire cycle of procurement of certain materials which are not available to them, manufacturing the SFG, and then final assembly. So you can imagine that if a client has some 1,000 SKUs, FG SKUs, we ask them to reduce from 1,000, we ask them to bring it down to say 250, 300. And within that 250, 300 also, we want them to classify as MTA, which could be as small as say 5 to 10%, because those products give them 50 to 60% of their sales, and a few 10 to 20% of ATO and another 10 to 20% of MTO. And remaining, we ask them to start refusing, that we will not deliver, or we are not catering to this particular SKU's demand. In order to support this, we ask them to classify their raw material and input components as procure or purchase to availability and procure or purchase to order. So this is what supports. PTA supports MTA and ATO, and PTO supports the MTO. So this is a thing which is unique to TOC body of knowledge, and simplicity is what we have to actively seek for. The second one principle that TOC says is that once you have a product structure, you can decide to have strategic inventory, design inventory in your plant, so that is always available, whether it is RM, whether it is SFG or FG. So once you decide to keep inventory, it opens up a lot of things that can be used, or that can be benefited out of it. So one of the things that happens is it decouples the complete manufacturing chain or the value chain into manageable small segments. So each segment, although they lead to the final finished good production, but each segment can be planned and managed independently. So decoupling means it becomes independent. It is not affected by the variations coming from demand side or the supply side, and they help to serve uh, the market from stock. So not the designed inventory not only allows you to decouple, but it also creates an opportunity to what is known as a decoupled explosion of MRP. So Aniruddha will explain to you the decoupled explosion that we have implemented in our client's place. And the last point that we have pulled out of the whole body of knowledge, and that is focus. But Aniruddha also said that in a manufacturing plant, there is a bottleneck which alone needs to be focused and needs to be scheduled in detail. Remaining all the facilities can follow what is happening at the bottleneck. And this is what helps us to simplify and codify the whole manufacturing process. So what we found when we looked at so many of our clients, the ERPNext has a manufacturing model, but it has a very rudimentary production planning. It requires forecast as a key input for running an MRP. There was no strategic stock planning feature built into, no dynamic buffer management, and MRP has to be run on a manual basis by clicking on button, right? So these are the things that we found, and we said, okay, we had been doing MRP, demand-driven MRP. Basically, when I say demand-driven planning is where we do not take forecast as an input to create supply orders. We do not take convert the forecast into something as a plan. We use forecast to design the buffers, the inventory model that I spoke about earlier, and using that we come up with the output. So basically, there are daily inputs that go into the system, the sales order, on-hand stock at different levels, open production orders, open purchase orders, and master inputs like buffer levels, bill of material, routing, the list of suppliers and customers. All these things become an input, and MRP is run, and it gives out what is the FG available for against sales orders, production orders, what to produce, in what sequence to produce, what to buy. So, open order recommendation for procurement for placing purchase order to the suppliers. So these are the recommendations that MRP gives out. It also gives out in a very simple manner using traffic light signals of red, yellow, green, creates a priority of and sequence of work. So basically, the system, what we had developed in Excel, used to deliver all this thing. Then we decided to convert it into ERPNext app. Right? So this is the overall functionality that we built into the app. Maybe Aniruddha will take you through this part of the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. So I'll quickly switch to, I think, our app demo itself, and I'll explain this part there itself. So can I share the screen?
Yeah, you please.
Okay. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just to summarize what Deepak eloquently explained over the last 10 minutes, essentially what we have done in this flow MRP, and call it, we are using interchangeably flow MRP, TOC app, whatever it is. What we have essentially done is we have modified the MRP which is there within ERPNext. Right? And the modification has been based on the fact that we categorize items into buffers. We decide certain items will be kept in buffer. That means I'll hold inventory. I will not wait for the demand to come from the top level, whether it is from a finished good or from a sales order. So I'm not waiting for that to come. I've decided that I'm going to hold inventory for a particular item. And the other categories that I have decided that I'm going to manage it back to back. Right? So this is a critical input for the MRP run to happen, because it has to treat the order generation differently. If it is buffered item, it will go based on the maximum level of inventory, what we have decided. If it is non-buffered, then it will look for first the demand and only then it will generate the orders. Right? That's the important part. The last point I want to make before I jump into this app is that buffers is not just about inventory, right? As Deepak also showed, he showed a diagram, I think, inverted pyramid where you had this red, yellow, green, and all of that. It's a brilliant managerial tool which helps you to actually figure out during execution where should be your focus, how you should prioritize the orders. It was ultimately how much ever you plan, ultimately you're operating in a VUCA, like Deepak shared. And so you need this mechanism of buffer to give you those signals during execution, and then also post the execution during your journey of improvement, what items to be prioritized, which suppliers to work with, so on and so forth. Right. So mind you, buffers is a very interesting managerial tool. Getting now into this app demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the key steps of what you see on the screen: the planning, execution, measurement, and improvement. So the first step is the whole inventory positioning piece, right? Because you've taken certain decisions based on what we want to commit to the market. And based on that, first we need to configure our item master for all the different items, finished goods, semi-finished good, and raw material, with the decisions we have taken about buffered and non-buffered. So now
Aniruddha,
if you
can you make the presentation full screen?
okay,
It's there on the top right now, Aniruddha.
which one is the 1 minute? Let me just check.
On the same row where flow management platform is written on the very right.
Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. Is this better now?
Yes.
I think that Mr. Elenkathir has raised his hand for a while. Maybe can we wait for the Q&A section? You can just take up your point later. Yeah. So continuing with the demo. So I'm just going to navigate to a screen where you will be able to see that now for a particular bill of material. Right now, this is all ERPNext. I think all of us who are familiar with ERPNext will be able to connect to these screens. And now this is one bill of material. And what you see on the right-hand side in this column buffer, what you see on the right-hand side in this column buffer is where we have marked whether this particular item, at whatever level it might be in the BOM, whether we are going to buffer it or we are going to treat it back to back. So where, for example, the first item, which is the FG, we have decided in this case that we are not going to buffer it. We are going to only make it back to back. But there are certain items down the line in the BOM which we have decided to hold in the buffer. Right? So that decision has a different thought process, and it will vary from company to company based on the market commitment which we want to give. Now, what I'm going to show you is, say, one of the items in the bill of material. Let's say we want to convert it from buffered to non-buffered. Right? So I'm just going to take you quickly through 2-3 steps of how do you set it up, and we have created certain custom fields in the item master for us to be able to insert that. So now if you see, there are certain other parameters which you can put in, whether it is the fixed batch size or what type of material it is, or MOQ and stuff like that. And then you can go ahead and edit your attributes. And here is the field for buffer, right? So if it is buffer, yes, no. So just in this particular example, we are going to now change this to saying that this is going to be a buffer no item. So now MRP has to recognize that. And then there are some of the other fields which are there, which I will explain in the subsequent scenario. So now what you will find is that we go and save the changes. And you will find that now this particular snap ring, which was, yeah, Deepak, you want to say something?
No, it's okay.
Hello.
Please continue. Yeah.
Okay. So this particular snap ring as a item, which was earlier, you would have seen that this was earlier buffered. Sorry. Now we have decided to do it back to back or non-buffer. Okay. And now the another scenario, just I think it's more or less similar. Now we are saying that we want to convert it from non-buffered to buffered. So again, you just go through the same settings of saying, okay, I can set up all these other attributes. But one important thing which I will talk about here is the fact that now once you set up the item as a buffered item, so it will come as in the next screen. Right? So now we have converted this item into buffered. Now you'll find that there is this concept of top of green, top of yellow, top of red. Right? So essentially for every buffered item, we need to decide what is the maximum level of inventory I need to hold, which is what we call as top of green. And sorry, and every buffer is bifurcated into three zones. which is green, yellow, and red. Right? So we can have another extended demo where I can talk you through how these values are generated and all that. But just mind you, for the moment, top of green is the maximum level of inventory which we have decided to keep for this particular item. And then we will go on to, we have now saved the changes. So now you can see that this particular air cap as an item, which was earlier not buffered, is now buffered. Okay? So we are going to MRP when it runs, it is not going to depend on the demand coming from the top. It is all going to be based on whatever level of inventory we have decided. That is how it will generate the orders. And then quickly showing you, there is a view where you can see all the items together. Because earlier I showed you for a particular BOM. Now you can see all the items together, which are buffered, which are not buffered. Yes, no, you can see here. Obviously, for the items where there is yes, you will find values for top of green, top of red, and all of that. Where there is not buffered, there is no question of any TOG because you're not maintaining any inventory. Right? And then you can filter this particular view based on FG, raw material, intermediate, because as I said, you have to take this decisions across all the three levels: finished goods, raw material, and intermediate or SFG. Right? So I'm just skipping through this because this is just giving you a view of, if you want to look at a subset of the overall items, you can see it and you'll be able to get an idea of which items are buffered and non-buffered. Right? So with this, what we have done is we have covered the planning part. You have decided that, okay, these items I'm going to buffer, these items I'm not going to buffer. Now we come to the heart of the whole thing, because now is where the modification in the MRP has happened, and the orders which are getting generated. Right? So I'm going to use the term material request. Material request could mean either a manufacturing request if it's a item which is produced in-house, or it could be a purchase request if I'm procuring it from outside. So that is now the heart of this whole MRP, flow MRP, demand-driven MRP, whatever you want to call it. That is the logic, right? So now let's quickly look at how does the order generation happen for a buffered item. MTA essentially means make to availability, a buffered item at a FG level. So how does it happen? So again, just going into one of the BOMs, let's say we've taken this BOM as an example. And what you can then see is we click on this empty items. I'm just running through some of these steps quickly in the interest of time, and I'll focus on the important ones. So here, for example, now if you see for this particular item, we have decided these are the levels. My top of green is going to be 9, my top of yellow is 6, and top of red is 3. So this is the maximum level of inventory I want to hold. That's a decision I have taken. I am not going to hold any more inventory. At the same time, when the MRP runs, what it will do is it will check this TOG level with what existing stock do I have and how many open orders are already there. And based on that, it will generate the next material request. So now if you see in the background, the MRP run has happened, the flow MRP run has happened, and it has churned out the material requests. Right? So on a daily basis, what will happen is there'll be a background job which will run at 12 a.m. in the night, and it will trigger all these material requests, whether purchase request or manufacturing request, and it will throw out, and that is the action which has to be then taken. So now if you see this particular item which we looked at, now what it has done is it has generated 4 line items. Now why it has generated 4 line items, probably we can take it in the extended demo, but you can see this adds up to 9 because we didn't have any inventory, we didn't have any open orders, our TOG was 9. So it says now you have to go and make 9 of these items to fill up the buffer of 9. That is what this means. And then there is also an element of color coding. Again, probably in the extended demo we can cover, because in even a company as small as maybe 20-30 crores, you'd find number of items are there. So every day there'll be a lot of material requests which are getting generated. So some sense of priority has to be there, which is communicated through that black, red, yellow, green. So then this happens, then you can view the details. Some more details are available. So this is the equation which is used in the flow MRP. On hand plus open orders minus qualified demand equal to net flow. And
Aniruddha,
Yeah, I think we lost Aniruddha. for the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'll ask him to join back.
Guys, Aniruddha is joining back. I assume the internet is not helping at any area right now. By the time Anirudh joins back, guys, you are like, we are like 130 plus people right now here. I would just like to tell you all that Frappeverse, which is the annual event of Frappe, is going to happen on 11th and 12th of September. So, in case you want to take a look at what Frappe is all about, what all products we're building, and how big is the community, do register for it. Its registration is free. You can definitely come and walk, see the talks, see the products, and all of that. So, um, ready. It's going to be live streamed. Yeah, it is going to be live streamed on our Frappe's YouTube channel. We'll be soon floating the links, live stream links, but it would be a wholesome experience to have you in person there. So yeah, I'll drop the registration links for it. You can definitely check it out. It's in Mumbai only. So yeah, Anirudh, you can continue. I was just trying to convey some important.
Okay, okay, sure. So I think I had some bit of a signal issue, but let me continue. I guess you probably were able to understand what I'm saying till this point. So what we did is we were discussing about the order generation for a buffered item or a MTA item, and we had got to the stage where we now have the work orders which are created, which we have converted from a manufacturing request, and then right, you can see that there's a work order which has got created. So I'm not dwelling too much on the work order part because that's the standard ERP next functionality which then takes over. Because what essentially we have done, as I said earlier, is only the MRP change. Right? So we've got the work order created, and then we can submit the work order for further processing. Right? So that completes now the order generation part for MTA. So I'll quickly go on to MTO, and then we'll round it off quickly with reports. So now in MTO, so you would have seen in MTA, we didn't actually start with the trigger of a sales order. I just showed you that we have set up a buffer for a particular item, and then I ran the MRP because we are not looking directly at the demand coming in from the sales order. But as against that, in MTO, it's all make to order as the term suggests. So you're only going to make it when you have an order. So the trigger is from the sales order. So now if you see, we'll quickly run through this again. This is the sales order which we are creating. So again, nothing new in this. This is a standard process in ERPNext for creating a sales order. We pick up the item code, we pick up the quantity, so on and so forth. So this is, and then we save and submit the sales order. Once we save and submit the sales order, that's when the TOC kicks in, because now if you see, it has created the manufacturing request and it is given in a color code of green based on the time buffer. Because in MTO, what happens is I don't have any stock. So that's why my priority is all based on how much time do I have left to complete the order. So then that gives me the material request, and then I have some other fields which get popped up in terms of required by date and stuff like that. And then you can see here that a material request has got created for 20 numbers. That was the order which we punched in. Generally, you will find for MTO there's no on-hand stock, or there is no open orders. Exceptionally, it might happen, but in this scenario, we have taken that there is no on-hand open orders. So straight away, it will go into triggering the material request for 20 numbers. And you can see the same net flow is there, but here in net flow, you will not find any on-hand open orders. So it has directly picked up the demand coming in from the sales order and triggered the material request. Right? So, and then again, you follow the same process. You create a work order and you continue your process as you do in case of normal ERPNext. Okay. So quickly round off. Babita, can I take 5 minutes for the reports?
Yes, yes, sure.
Yeah. So we'll quickly now round off with the report. So just to summarize, we did the planning. We decided what items we wanted to buffer, not buffer. We ran the MRP. We saw material requests getting generated. As I said, after that, whether it is the purchase item or the manufacturing item, it is the subsequent standard ERPNext process which takes over and you follow through. But we need obviously reports and metrics to support this, and they're a little different from what you would normally have. And this is an important part because if your metrics are not in shape, they're not aligned to what we've been talking in terms of flow and demand driven, then you will create more confusion. So this is an important part. So here in reports, again, we've created something like 15 different reports. I'll give you a small glimpse of some of them. So this is a MTA report. So again, you can see all the MTA items. What are the open sales orders? What is the on-hand inventory? How much quantity have you ordered? So on and so forth. There are many other columns to the right-hand side. Similar, right? So just to pick up one item and show you some, if you remember that we had a buffer of 9 against which we created a manufacturing request. It triggered a manufacturing request of 9. There's no sales order here, if you see. Then you can go to MTO. MTO, you can see all the details around what is the on hand, what is the open orders, so on and so forth. Again, we'll filter down to one which we created, and you will see that now there's a 20 quantity a sales order and an order recommendation of 20. It is saying that please convert this into a work order. Then similarly, you will have a report for pending sales orders. You want to see total pending sales orders, how much is ready to dispatch, partially available, not available, right? And then you can color this whichever way you want it. Uh, I don't want to spend too much time. I'll go to the full kitting, which is, I think, the interesting part. I think all of us who have worked in manufacturing know the importance of full kit, especially in assembly plants or in plants where you assemble motors, pumps, all kinds of equipments. You know that you need more than one item to make an SFG or a FG. So full kitting becomes very important. So what you see right now on the screen is full kit at the sales order level, but more importantly, there's also a full kit at the work order level. And here there is a slight twist or a slight TOC insight which we have brought in terms of how do you create the full kit based on something called a soft allocation, which again I'll leave if you have any questions on that or on the extended demo. But essentially, this is telling you whether at the sales order level, do you have the full kit? Do you have all the material to dispatch based on the customer requirement? If you don't, then the planner has to prioritize and make sure it happens. And similarly, you will have it at the work order level. So for a work order, do you have all the items at the immediate level of bill of material to be able to produce that quantity, what you need, which has been triggered from the MRP? Right. So again, just stepping through quickly, this is the work order, and then you've got reports like open work orders. What is the current status of the work orders? What is the current status of the purchase orders? And so all of these reports have been created to support, because ultimately the idea is that anytime a person comes in, every role in the manufacturing company should have very clear idea of today, what is it that I need to do? What are the tasks and in what priority I need to do? So that is the whole idea behind developing these reports. And then you've got the open PO, and then you get to, so these two are interesting reports. What this is telling you is that a material request has got created, but we are somehow the planner has not converted it into a work order, or if it's a purchase item, then a purchase order. And so this is like a red flag, and this is something which the planner and his manager has to make sure that this is monitored properly. And we have as few items as possible in this, because if you don't convert it from from the material request into purchase order or manufacturing order, work order, you will face delays. So all whatever TOC you have done will go for a toss if you don't do this basic step. So if you see the principle is simple, the solution is simple. The important bit is to just keep at it in a disciplined way. Right? So these reports will tell you that, it will flag you that you've not converted certain material requests into purchase orders and work orders. And then you get to these interesting reports of, if I want to now track for a particular item, day wise, what has been my status in terms of availability. Black, red, yellow, green is telling you what is the health of the buffer in terms of availability. So for example, the first item you find as an example that consistently it has been in black, which means it has not been available. Black indicates that I didn't have any stock or any quantity of this particular item. which could then trigger some kind of a review and an improvement initiative or some action which needs to be taken. Similarly, on the other hand, you might find that a particular item has always been in white. White means it is above the level which we have decided. Why it happens, again, matter of detailed discussion, but this could trigger a thought that why is it that people are not complying to what we have decided. Ideally it should not go into white, because now here you don't have to do anything manually. Material requests are getting generated which you need to convert, but even then, if you are finding that there is a white, it is a cause for some kind of an investigation on non-compliance or whatever it is, and then fix the issue. But otherwise, you'll generally find that items will be in green, yellow. Yeah, so yellow is where you want to be in a good working system. That will help to maximize the inventory turns. And then another view of the same report, where you will find that on a particular date or across days, you want to see how many items are in black, red, yellow, green. As I said earlier, buffers is a super managerial tool, and black, red actually is the metrics. So across the board, what you want in manufacturing is zero blacks and less than 5% reds. If that is there, you know things are on track. Right? So this will tell you, and then you can graph it out and see the trend and all those things. And then the final thing is the dashboard. So as a senior manager, I found that we've got a good percentage of senior leaders also, I think, who have joined in. You can log in and see, okay, what is the current status of finished goods, SFG, and then trigger things from there. So that's in short. I'll wrap up here.
So thank you so much, guys, and I hope you all are also joining Frappeverse, Team Yagna and Hybro Labs. Very excited to see you all there, and we hope we all the attendees also get to participate in there. So thank you so much, guys. See you again on 16th for another webinar. So till then, as always, don't forget to be awesome. Thank you so much.